Hi, Asmit, Billy, and Dipasha. Can you hear me?
Yep. Hello.
Hey
Good
guys.
morning.
It seems my device is broken and I can't hear anybody.
Okay, man, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It seems nobody speaking at the beginning. It's not my device problem, right?
Yes.
We
All
can
right,
speak actually. Maybe it was an internet issue. Not sure.
sorry, Dipasha, I didn't get your point.
Oh, yeah, no, we did actually speak before. So, are we audible? Am I audible now?
Yeah, I think I can hear you and
Okay, yeah.
no
Great.
problem.
Okay.
And good morning. I know it's quite earlier for your time zone. For India, standard time zone is 5:30 a.m., I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Good morning. Yeah.
You will have a long morning and also for estimate.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wait for maybe another 1 or 2 minutes for others to join us. I know Terry will join us and Andrew will not be able to join us today as he is in Europe time zone and and he's on the travel. So I think Andrew will not be able to join us. Let me forward today's agenda link to our chat. I just shoot a message to Terry, and I think we can start first and go through today's agenda and just see if there are any topics you want to add to our today's agenda. Before our meeting, I think I mentioned that I'm looking for other volunteers, especially for ORAS maintainers who can help us to host this meeting and as a regular moderator for our meeting. Dipasha shared her interest to become a meeting moderator. So I think you will be able to become a meeting moderator until you have been nominated to be an ORAS maintainer. I think it will be very soon. So I think we are looking for ORAS maintainers who can help us to run this meeting regularly. And yeah, this is my hope. Okay, I see Terry joined us. Hi, Terry.
How's it going?
Hi, Terry.
I'm doing well. Thanks, Terry, for joining us out from your working hours. I know it's maybe 6 or 7 p.m. in your time zone.
Yeah, 6 o'clock, not bad.
Awesome. And I'm sharing my screen and I will continue to be today's meeting host and run this meeting with the planned agenda. So can anyone see my screen? I'm sharing the agenda for today's meeting.
Yep. Yeah.
So we have a lot of topics we want to cover in today's meeting, but we may not deep dive into those items which are not high priority, or the topic which relates to the maintainers who need to make decisions, such as the maintenance of the ORAS artifact spec repo. I think we may need to have other maintainers like Sajay, Steve, and the other maintainers for that topic. So we may skip that if we don't have those maintainers in this meeting later. So other topics include, we will celebrate the new release for ORAS Credential Go, the libraries which is used to authenticate and manage credentials with registry. And I think we may have Shui to help us quickly walk through that release notes later. And the second topic is to discuss when should we merge the ORAS Credential Go library into ORAS Go library. In this way, we can maintain it in an easy way. And the next item is proposed by Dipasha and me. We will quickly review and confirm the new ORAS documentation directory structure and see how can we proceed the new documentation work with the community folks. And the next item would be, I would like to propose we have a regular triage for the recent issues and PRs that opened in the recent 2 weeks. As I noticed that there are some PRs which are not reviewed by anyone over the past few weeks, and there are some issues also. We see a lot of new folks who are interested to pick it up. So I think we may need to have a regular triage in this meeting just for recent 2 weeks. The last item is proposed by Esmate. He will go through and demonstrate the Git pull support for ORAS website pull request. So is there any other topics you want to add to today's agenda? If not, I think we can start this meeting. So I would like to ask Dipasha, would you help me to take a short notes for attendees and maybe some other actionable items for meeting notes, then we can start this meeting.
Sure. Yes, I'll do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see Sajay joined us. Maybe we can discuss the maintenance plan for ORAS artifact spec later. Hi, Sajay. Okay, so I think we can start from the first item. So as you may notice that Xiaoxuan announced the ORAS credential Go v0.2.0 release in the Slack channel yesterday, and we cut this release for this library. So I would like to invite Shui to quickly go through what's new in this release and how library users can leverage the features from this library and integrate this library into their products. We will have recording, so feel free to share any details around this new release.
Yes. So yesterday we have released the version 0.2.0 version of the ORAS Credential Go. So Feynman, can you just scroll down a bit to the other changes? Okay.
Sure.
So before I showing the new features, I want to mention that we have completely removed the dependency on the that Docker credential helpers Go module. So we are no longer depends on Docker anymore. I mean, from the Go module side, of course, we still need the depend on the Docker credential helpers. Of course, I mean the actual binaries we need to depend on, and also we need to depend on the config files. So why we are doing that is that the first reason is that the Docker credential helper Go module does not support context canceling. So after we remove the dependency, we now support context canceling for native source. For example, if the binary for the credential helper hangs, we can just cancel it, and the program will kill the process. And you cannot do that with the original Docker credential helper SDK. Yes, so that's the major change here. And for the new features, we introduced several new public APIs and data types. The first one is the new default native store. We does that because we are splitting the original we are splitting the behavior of the original dynamic store. So for now, when you initiate a dynamic store, it will not automatically detect the default native store. For example, if your dynamic store that's for the config file has no credential store configured, it will not detect the platform default one. For example, for Linux, it's secret or pass. For Mac, it's OS chain, and for Windows, that's WinCred. It will not detect from this version. If you want to have a default credential helper, you can call the new default native store to get the default one. Of course, we have a new option in the store options. It's called the detect default native store option. Starting from this version, it will be set to false by default. But if you want, you can just set it to true for automatic detecting the native store for you. Since we need to know whether a dynamic store is empty, is the auth config or not, we expose the dynamic store to the public so that you can call the APIs for the dynamic store. Because we expose the dynamic store to the public, we also need to modify the related APIs like new store and the new store from Docker. So if you look at the other changes, there's a breaking change on the function signature. New store and the new store from Docker will not return a store, but return a dynamic store pointer. Of course, the dynamic store pointer implements the store interface. For the convenience, for example, when you are getting or storing credential for the docker.io, the server address for the docker.io is not docker.io. It's https :/index.docker.io/. It's a very complex one, and actually every application need to implement that in their logic, and it's easy to miss like notation. So we provide two utility functions called server address from registry and also the server address from the host name. So you can easily handle those special handlings in your application. So basically, you can just call server address from registry to auto convert the docker.io to the special server address. And also from the hostname that is converting the registry-1 .docker.io to the index.io, index.docker.io. Okay. Yes. Besides all those changes, we have also upgrade the error message for the Docker credential desktop.exe file in the WSL2 environment. So the Docker desktop has a very special behavior in WSL2. So all those credential helpers are mounted to the WSL2 environment only when the desktop, the Docker desktop is up. If the Docker desktop is not running, the Docker credentials helpers will not be mounted to a certain folder in the WS2 environment. So although you have Docker desktop is installed and maybe you can run Docker in WS2, but you still cannot access any credential helpers. And the user wants to know that because he or she won't notice whether the Docker desktop is running or not. Therefore, we did a error message update saying that if we cannot find the Docker helper for the desktop.exe, but the config file is configured to the Docker desktop.exe, we will show a error message saying that are you running the Docker desktop? If you are not running, you probably should. That's all for the ORAS Credential Go version 0.20. Hopefully you can enjoy it.
Great, thanks, Shui. And I see a lot of new features introduced in this release. So although there is a breaking change, but it doesn't mean a lot as we are still in a we are still in a 0.2 version. So does users need to pay attention to this breaking change as we change the default value?
Pardon?
Does users need to pay attention to breaking change as we change the default value for this option?
Yes. So if you want to upgrade from the older version to the new version, and you don't want to have any behavior changes, you need to toggle the detect default native store from false to true when you're creating a new store or new store from Docker.
Makes sense. Another request is that I think we are planning to use ORAS v 0.2.0 in ORAS CLI 1.1.0. Is that our is that in our plan? And I think Notation has already integrated this release, this Credential Go release.
Yes, we will later integrate this new version into the ORAS CLI, and also we will review the actual invocation in the ORAS CLI and to see whether it is valid or makes sense or not. We have done this in the Notation CLI, so the Notation CLI sounds good.
Okay, I think Satya has a reminder in our meeting chat. That's a good point. I think it was us to calling out the breaking change in a minor release. Okay, so I think by default, we will bump up the notation. I mean, not bump up. I think we are first time to integrate ORAS Credential Go into ORAS CLI, as we don't have new release in the past few months. And so this is the first time to integrate ORAS Credential Go in ORAS CLI 1.1.0.
Not really. so in the main branch, we are actually using the ORAS Credential Go version 0.1.1 actually. So it's already
Okay.
integrated.
Okay, I didn't got that, but I think so. I think the action here is to bump up the version in our CLI, the Go
Yes.
mod. Okay, gotcha. All right, I think we finished the first item. So then the next item is related to the first one, is to discuss when should we merge the ORAS Credential Go into ORAS Go. I think this is a question from Shui, and I know we
Yeah.
have other ORAS Credential Go maintainers like Terry. Sylvia is not in this call, and I think Terry can join the discussion for this question.
Yeah. So before discuss this one, I want to ask a question is, should we merge the ORAS Credential Go into the ORAS Go? That's the first question. And the next one is when. Yeah. The reason I'm proposing this is because first of all, we see that ORAS Credential Go is designed for the ORAS Go. You cannot use the ORAS credential without the ORAS Go dependency. That's the first one I noticed. The second one is originally we split the repos from the ORAS Go because it has the Docker dependencies. But for now, as you can see, it's totally independent from the Docker SDKs. So I think it's time to merge two repos to just reduce the maintenance cost. Terry, do you have any comments on this one?
Not particularly, though. I'm definitely, psyched to get rid of the Docker dependency.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. Anyone else, any maintainers has any comments? I mean, org level or other maintainers in other repos?
I can share some comments around the pros and cons if we want to merge the ORAS Credential Go into ORAS Go. So thinking from the users of the ORAS libraries, so I think most of the users are already know ORAS Go or already using ORAS Go in their project. As you can see, we have more than 1,000 consumers who are depend on ORAS Go, right? So as a standard OCI registry client library, so I think users may consider how to authenticate with OCI registry and how can they manage credential store with ORAS library. But we don't have a good implementation and in ORAS Go, and it is still relies on Docker credential management. So I think if we can merge ORAS Credential Go into ORAS Go, I think we can provide a fully functional OCI registry client library for users, especially for those existing users. It will be super convenient for them to use just one library to cover different scenarios, includes the authentication scenario. And another reason is that ORAS Go is much popular in the industry, and I think most of users will notice ORAS Go, and it is a little bit hard for them to find ORAS Credential Go. And another justification is that we will need to maintain two repositories, and we need to when we want to cut a release for two repositories, we need to vote for 2 times and maintain things in different places. And for end users, they will also need to bump up the release from different repositories. So I think if we can merge ORAS Credential Go into ORAS Go, it might decrease the maintenance efforts from the long-term point of view. Yeah, I just share my 2 cents. And although I am not a maintainer for ORAS Credential Go, just share perspective from end users.
Yeah, thanks, Damon, for the comments. Sajid, do you have any comments here? And Billy?
No, looks good. I think removing the dependencies for Docker is something we wanted to do quite some time.
One question about the timing. So should we merge it before the 2.0 release of ORAS Go? Because if you merge to ORAS Go, then we won't maintain the credential Go, right? If user use like ORAS Go 1.0 and they need like credential support, they can still use the merge Go.
Yes.
Maybe I misunderstood. Wait, we're not dropping the library, right?
What do you mean by dropping the library?
No, what is the concern if we merge now versus later?
The concern here is that ORAS Credential Go is still in the early development. It's not mature enough. When it is approaching the V1 version, which is it's ready and it won't have any breaking changes. I think we can merge it to the ORAS Go V2 so that we can still maintain it in the ORAS Go V2 because ORAS Go V2 is a stable version. But I think it's not, I did not answer the question from Billy. So Billy, what's your concern again?
Does like, I'm thinking whether user, if we don't merge it before V2, then user use ORAS Go V1, we're like looking for other libraries for credential support, or even like use ORAS Go V2 for the credential authentication. So if we don't merge it before V2, how user, like how ORAS Go V1 user can do the use the credential Go library?
ORAS Go V1 cannot use the ORAS Credential Go library actually, because ORAS Credential Go depends on the ORAS Go V2. And also for the ORAS Go V1 users, they are using Docker credentials provided by they are actually using the Docker CLI SDKs.
Okay, so the plan is like not support don't have credential support in ORAS Go V1 in the long term.
Of course, we are dropping off the ORAS Go V1.
Oh, it's a dropping off. Okay.
Yeah. As long as ORAS Go V2 is mature enough, we will deprecate the ORAS Go V1.
Okay. Good.
We really need to merge it. What's the main motivation to merge?
Mature repos, as Viman mentioned, that we want to first one, we want to reduce the maintenance cost. The second one is that we do see some concerns on the versioning, actually the dependency. So you will see that ORAS Credential Go depends on the ORAS Go V2. So if ORAS Go V2, the version of the ORAS Go V2 bumps up, we need to make sure that the ORAS Credential Go actually compatible with the newer version of the ORAS Go. And later, if we have ORAS Go V3, what will happen to the ORAS Credential Go? Should we also maintain two versions of ORAS Credential Go for both versions of ORAS Go?
Yeah, also the Go mod entries become more and more complicated, right? As we have multiple. Is that a problem, or am I being wrong? Am I wrong here?
So Freeman, can you just show the Go.mode file in the
Sure,
ORAS Credential Go file repo?
Yeah. Which function you wanna
No, I'm
just
asking
go,
for a client user who's using ORAS Go, you just want them to have possibly only one Go mod ad, right?
yes.
Okay.
So
What about can we unify this merge with moving out of oras.land? Is that feasible?
that's only feasible on ORAS Go v3.
That's kind of what I was. Maybe we align all these merges together in ORAS Go v3, where we drop the credential helper, because v3 will have the credential helper and it'll be the mod will be a GitHub mod rather than ORAS land and less breaking. Anyway, that's something to consider.
Yes, we can definitely do that in v3. By the way, yeah, even if we merge the ORAS credential Go to the ORAS Go, it's still I mean incremental changes. It won't have any breaking changes. By the way, for the current Go mode in the ORAS credential Go, Feynman, can you show that in your web browser?
Yeah. You mean the current version of ORAS Go, or?
The Go mode file in the ORAS credential Go. So it's
Yeah.
in the code
Let me
repo.
switch. Yeah. Let me switch to that page.
Yes.
GitHub interface, GUI interface has changed yesterday.
Yes, as you can see here, so as you can see, the Go mode in the ORAS credential Go depends on nothing except the ORAS Go v2.
Okay, what happens if somebody's imported both these and we rev ORAS Go to include these modules? Will there be a problem? Will they have to remove that?
No,
Okay.
because they are in they are in different namespaces. I mean, they are different modules, so they can live together.
But they don't need to use this one going forward.
Yes, so later, if we really merge these two repos, we can archive the ORAS Go credential, ORAS credential Go repo later, and have a pointer to the ORAS Go v2.
Okay, it's an unreleased module, so maybe it's less risky than release modules.
Of course, I will also send a discussion in the Slack so that Andrew can also join the discussion.
Thank you.
Are we confirming changing the Go module name for ORAS credential Go? I see we are proposing change it from github.com to oras.land.
I don't think so. We are actually doing the another way around. That is changing the ORAS land to the GitHub for ORAS Go v2. Because we
Okay,
cannot do
so
that in v2, so it's about in ORAS Go v3. Yeah.
okay, I think I'm misunderstood the intention. So I think we are planning to use a unified Go module by using github.com instead of oras.land for ORAS libraries.
Yes, in the future, that's in ORAS Go v3, we should change it to github.com from oras.land. But for ORAS Go v2, because we need to maintain the backward compatibility, so we will maintain the oras.land for v2. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. So I think we are waiting for a stable release of ORAS credential Go. Until that, then we can merge ORAS credential go into ORAS Go after we have a stable release. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, RC release, but it will never go to 1.0.
So a relatively stable release, I mean, release candidates.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think
Do we have any idea of what?
Yeah, go ahead. Go
Do you
ahead,
have any
Harry.
idea of what kind of what needs to be done to create this stable release?
So because we're using it in the Aura CLI and the notation CLI, and if we see there's no other requirement to introduce breaking changes, then it's stable at the API level.
Okay, so we're just going to give it some time, like 3 months or something.
Yeah, maybe 3 months is too long, but we need months, of course.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 24 minutes left. So I think we will quickly go through some high priority items, which requires more discussion and opinions in this meeting. So the next item would be quickly review and confirm the new ORAS documentation directory structure proposed from Deepasha. And we also had a discussion with another 2 ORAS maintainers, Carrie and Estimate, I think last week, right? So we have the first version, the initial version for ORAS, for the new ORAS documentation directory structure. And this is the link. I can share it in our chat. So I think you can also review it from your side and left comments in this document. The purpose is to refactor the existing ORAS documentation and provide aware structured documentation for users, as you may find that there's some content outdated, or we still have some documents which are not aligned with the latest ORAS CLI or ORAS libraries. So I think we want to refresh all of those content and also the documentation structure and provide a user-friendly content. So I'm forwarding the link, this Google Doc, to our chat. You can also review and left comments from your side. Okay, I think this is the current structure, which is captured from ORAS.land. And here is the proposed structure from Deepasha. Deepasha, would you want to quickly go through it, and or you want me to drive the discussion?
Yeah, I can go through it. So basically I went through a few documentations for different websites, and I really liked the documentation of Helm. And I also went through a framework for documentation called Diet Access Framework. I'll just forward the links for both of them. So based on that, I tried to find what would make sense for us, put both of the structures together and also refer to the current structure. And this is what I came up with. So first we have the home page. So this will be the welcome page, where we can maybe have like a quick introduction of what ORAS does, or yeah, basically something like the introduction page that we have currently. After that, we could explain the structure. So maybe something like what would a tutorial, who would it be useful for, what all we cover in it. So suppose a tutorial is something which will be completely learning oriented. So we would have to give a more detailed explanation, and we will cover more concepts in tutorials. So yeah, so that's what we've done there. Next, we have the introduction. So we'll probably cover what is ORAS, a quick start guide, demos, roadmaps, all of that will come in this section. Next, we have the installation. So we previously had the installation inside CLI. So we thought of keeping, one second. We thought of keeping it at the top so that it would be easy for anyone who would like to install, and it'd be easier. So yeah, next we have, so that is what we did there. Then we have the how-to guides. So right now it's under the title of CLI. Where we have all of the basic things like authentication, pushing, pulling, manifest, config, all of those things. So a how-to guide based on the
excuse me, Dipasha.
Yeah.
I have added this document this morning, and I added a few items. So I want to quickly sync it up with you and other folks. So the first one would be we need to provide instruction for how to validate the checksum of the ORAS CLI or CLI binaries. I think we have the checksum files and also the GPG key signature along with each ORAS CLI release CLI binary. So I think we need to provide instructions to validate the checksum for security considerations. And users will need to install GPG client and validate it in their desktop or in their machine. So there's an issue to track these items. I think this is necessary for installation guide.
Sure.
Yeah,
yes.
You can go ahead. I can chime in if there is something missing.
Sure. Yes. Okay, so the how-to guide will be more for people who are already aware of how ORAS works or the basic working of how things go. So it'll be less of explanation, more of this is what you're supposed to do in order to get a particular result. So we have put certain things under the how-to. The current CLI doesn't have much explanation. It's just if you want to push, you have to do step 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's why we've put it under a how-to guide. We also came up with certain topics that we would like to cover under the how-to guides. So that is also there in the documentation. These are currently not there. I think most of them are not there. So that's what we thought of. Next, we have the ORAS commands. So the entire CLI reference will come under ORAS commands. It's just renaming the title. I think we also need to add one command here. One command is missing, but other than that, maybe.
Which command?
I had it. Hold on a second. Can I get back to you on that? I have it in my my proposal, what I need to find it.
Sure. No worries. I think you can comment on the sentence later. I think you can find that later. So before we go through the ORAS commands or CLI reference section, I think we have some questions we need to confirm and discuss with other maintainers. So the first item would be the ORAS artifact reference types. This document, as you can see from, I can open that link. So as you can see, we have a document with the topic ORAS artifact reference types and marked as Alpha 1. So I think the current project status of ORAS artifact spec is we are not actively maintaining that artifact spec in our side, and we also removed the dependencies on ORAS artifact spec It's just my understanding. So I'm not sure. Do we still need to keep ORAS artifact reference types on the website? Do we plan to remove it from the website? And also another follow-up question is that should we choose to archive the ORAS artifact spec repo? I think here are two questions for our maintainers to consider about. As we are now following the OCI image spec totally, and ORAS v1 version will not package the content into ORAS artifact manifest type. So I'm thinking this document could be removed from the ORAS documentation, and we will not recommend users to generate ORAS artifact manifest type by following this content. Shui, Sajay, and the other maintainers, any thoughts on?
Yeah, no, I think it's fine. We've already called out in the repository that if you go to the ORAS artifact spec repo, the project status is that this is no longer in development. There's no reason for us to have documentation for something that is not going to be supported or not something that we want to discuss or like spend time on. At least that's my take. I mean, I'd like to hear from others as well.
Yeah, I remember Michael has added a
If you scroll,
notice for the project status. Yeah,
you can scroll down just a little bit. Yeah.
I think we are waiting for a stable release of OCI image spec. Until that, we are able to archive this project. Is that our plan?
Yeah, I think you can still hide the documentation if you want to.
I think so, and I think we don't need to provide an entry for users consume and generate the ORAS artifact manifest.
Right.
And this is outdated content.
Yeah, it just confuses users, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I think it was us to create another guide to introduce OCI image manifest with refers API and other OCI spec functionalities is alternative to this document.
Right. So can we do something like what Helm did, which is we can start with the next branch or something that starts with the OCI artifact implementation for image manifest, and then use that as a way for people to get a pre-release binary or like build from main that would have the new image support, and then when that's ready, kind of like ship it.
You mean a dev release, or I didn't get your point clearly. Can you share an example from Helm? I think you are talking about the Helm model.
Yeah, Helm had v3 branch, and or like main was v3, but they had a stable 2.0 or v3 branch that enabled them to kind of work on two different implementations at the same time. It's I think it's Helm.
Yeah, sorry. It's Helm, yeah. Do you mean we want to introduce different branch strategy. We want to introduce another branch to
More like a
implement.
question. I'm asking if people want to do that.
So I think this is a question for ORAS CLI maintainers. I'm not sure we have valid reasons to create a new branch for our development. Billy and Shui, do you have any opinions around such an idea?
So in a dev branch, we can introduce like, so the release will be cherry picking from that dev branch. Sorry, I didn't get Tadeu's intent.
There are some breaking changes, right? Like in, for example, when we did art, maybe everything into main might be okay. I'm just trying to think about it, whether we should consider an ORAS v3, right? An ORAS CLI v3 that will have OCI, whatever the new OCI is implemented, and somebody can build from dev v3 and then.
I got your intention. So I think there are a lot of functionalities which are still in OCI spec RC versions, which means they're unstable functionalities. But as a OCI registered client, we want users who are interested in OCI spec, and they can consume and test it. And I think this is also similar to our previous OCI playground.
Right, and the problem is that, for example, now the index supports, index is an artifact type. I would love to see how we can push an index type artifact, right? Like, but we have no CLI, we have no libraries, so. But it's also a burden of maintaining another branch, releasing from the other branch. So just want to kind of like hear what other people think about it.
Did we archive the previous OCI playground ORAS repository? I remember there's a repository in OCI playground.
That was a part of the OCI working group. I think now that everything is moved into open containers, this might be the place where you can decide whether you want another branch to kind of like start iterating on. But it's going to be more formal because you will have tests, it'll be like shippable code as soon as they agree on releasing the spec. We won't have to wait for like 3 months before we ship it. So anyway, just food for thought.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion, but I think we may need further discussion as it may increase the maintenance efforts for us after we introduce multiple branch. Okay, so as we have very limited time, I would like to continue focus on the ORAS documentation structure. And for this question, I think we will need to remove the ORAS artifact reference type stock from the website. Okay, so back to Dipasha.
Yeah, the ORAS command which is missing is complete. So we need to add completion, sorry. So we need to add documentation for that. I've written it there.
You mean complete or
No, it's completion. It's completion.
Completion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it seems we already have an issue to track that idea.
Okay.
Let me see if we have an
Yeah.
issue. If not, we need to create an issue. I think ORAS completion is quite useful for users to simplify the typing commands. And let me see. Okay, good catch. I think we need to create an issue for that item. Then we can start to write the guideline for ORAS completion.
Sure. Yeah.
You can go ahead and go through other items.
Yeah. Next we have the tutorials. So tutorials will have more content. They will explain the steps or explain what all concepts we'll be using throughout the tutorial. So kind of more for catered to beginners or newcomers. I also thought of adding the use cases here because then we can give an example and then show how things work. So that is the reasoning behind putting these topics under tutorials. The client library, I think we can keep as is. We just need to add the .NET client library over here. So that is there. Adopters, I think we discussed in the meeting some changes, but I don't think, I think it's majorly that we have another section called adopters in the navigation bar. So maybe just remove the overlapping content or try to make sure that it makes sense to have two different sections. So we had discussed that. So something like that. Blogs, I don't think anything needs to be changed here. In the community section, I think we don't, so we have the developer guide in CLI. So the developer guide, the contributor guide, the details on when meetings happen, how to join the community, the contributor ladder. I think we do not have the last 3 points, so we'll have to make them from scratch, whereas the top 3 just need to be brought under community. I think we have the contributing guide and details already under community, but maybe refining it or adding details wherever necessary. Troubleshooting, we need to make an entire section for that. For FAQs, we need to start making a list of the questions that we would like to cover. I'll be making a doc for that soon. For glossary, I have made a list of terminologies that we can add. So there is a Google Doc for that too, which I have linked over there. So yeah, that's the documentation structure that I was proposing.
Yeah, I just added a comment for troubleshooting part. I think we might use this how to use verbals or debug flag for troubleshooting purposes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we would like to create some new content, some new documents for how-to and tutorials. I'm thinking we can invite other users and the maintainers who can help us to contribute more ideas around how-to and the tutorials. So I think we have come up with some common use cases, like we listed in this section and also here. So I'm thinking if there are any other use cases that are not involved in this document. So maintainers, would you review the how-to part and also the tutorials part and see if there's any documents missing in our list, especially for Billy and maybe Shui? you can take a quick look at those content and see if there's any guides that we need to, and also topics we need to add to these two sections. So for authenticate with OCI registries, this is the new topic that I added this morning. So I think we will need to create a guide for how to authenticate with registries securely. So as you know, we have the new ORAS credential goal, and also the functionality with authentication when using ORAS-CLI with other registries. I think we need to document how users use Docker config file and the Docker credential helper, and install those credential helper in their Linux machine. There is an example in Notary website. I can forward it to you. I can add a comment for this item later. There is an example you can reference.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we can leave time for other maintainers review the how-to and tutorial section later and see if there is any new comments in this doc.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks, Deepasha. I think we finished the
you.
item of the new documentation structure. And we also discussed the maintenance of the ORAS artifacts back. So we need to make sure that the this guide ORAS artifact reference type should be removed from the ORAS.land. Okay, I think we don't have too much time to do the triage work, and we have last item around demonstrating Git path support from Estimate. So Estimate, how many time would you want to spend to demonstrate Git path support?
I think it will take just 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay, that's great. I think
Yeah.
Maybe we can extend just maybe 2 or 3 minutes to finish the last item. So
Okay, then
would you want to share a screen, or you want me to share my screen and jump to the PR?
I'm not able to share my screen here, so can you jump to the PR and share the screen then?
Sure. I'm opening the Git path support PR.
In the files changed, can you like view the README file where I've made the changes?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I want the like README version of it, like how it will look on GitHub.
Would you want me to open this link?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so
I think you will need like to sign in. So basically, I'll just explain. What Gitpod does is it just creates a workspace for you in their cloud platform, and then there you can easily edit code or add changes and work on different PRs. I think there was some confusion that it's only related to VS Code or just one specific IDE. It's not. You can choose between different IDEs on the cloud platform as well. Basically, it will give a functionality to the ORAS www repo, where beginners or those who want to do quick changes can easily jump on the cloud IDE, do their changes, see the changes live, and then directly create a pull request from there. So yeah, this was the small functionality that this PR adds. So as you can see on the screen, it starts building the repository automatically, and a new window will open consisting of the preview of the website.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea for running a remote development environment for Aura's website repo, and developers will not need to provision the environment in their local if they are new to the project.
And if this if more developers are using it while contributing, we can also introduce this feature into other ORAS repositories, as it supports almost all frameworks including Go. So yeah.
I think this is useful for Aura's website repo, but I'm not sure Aura's CLI repo really needs the Git pod support. I will leave this question for Aura CLI maintainers like Terry, Shui, and Billy.
I have a question for this one. So what's the difference between the Git pod with the VS Code space? I mean, the GitHub coding space.
We can also do it with GitHub code space, but I think it requires some enterprise plan. But with Gitpod, every new contributors get like around 50 to 70 hours of free workspace just for quick changes. And yeah, that's-
Can we run the npm install, and can we run the website on GitHub Workspace?
I think we can run on the GitHub code space as well. I'll have to check that config there. I think we can be able to like do it.
Yeah, I think this is a good point. We need to confirm before we merge this PR.
Are you talking about like the Gitpod or GitHub one which Shivi mentioned?
Yeah, I mean the differences between Gitpod and GitHub Codespace. If GitHub Codespace has already built-in functionalities like the Gitpod, I think it might be a first option for users.
Then okay, I'll explore that and maybe change this PR to GitHub code space then by comparing. Since I had used Gitpod more frequently, I went ahead with this particular choice. But
Yeah, no
yeah, the
problem.
general idea is just to give new contributors quick like platform to make changes, create pull requests.
Yeah, for me, GitHub Codespace is more like an web editor, and I didn't compile and running the development environment in GitHub Codespace, and I think Gitpod provides a good remote development environment for new folks. So I think you can compare and investigate GitHub Codespace if it had been covered, if this functionality has been covered by GitHub Codespace. And I think we can leverage the built-in feature provided by GitHub.
Yep, sure. I'll conduct that research this week and update PR if it's necessary.
Okay, so is there any other concerns or questions around? I see Sajid acknowledged this idea. Yeah, I think the next step for providing a remote development environment is to investigate if which tool will be much suitable for our purposes. I think we can investigate GitHub workspaces, code space, and compare it with GitHub.
Yep. I'll do that this week.
Thanks. I think we finished all of those topics for today's meeting. So any other questions around this community call? And we can do the triage for issues and PRs opened in our recent 2 weeks offline, and then we can async for this item. All right, if there's no more questions from you folks, I think we can end up today's meeting. I will stop my sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Have a nice week.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Hi, Shui. I see his hands is still raising up. I'm not sure. Okay, I can discuss with him offline.